Blog Talk Radio.
Combat Media Boxing Radio, episode 40. I'm laughing because that was the MMA music for the MMA show. I don't know how that got on our boxing radio show, but that was just not the pump-up song that I'm used to hearing, so kind of made me laugh. But welcome back. Happy New Year. I'm so excited to be here. We have such a show. It's episode number 40. I am your host, Christy Rosario, here in Los Angeles. My co-host is Richard Solomon, the Boxing Prophet in New York City. How are you, Prophet? Oops, he's on mute. That's a good way to get him not to talk too much, huh? Hey, Prophet. You there?
I don't know if this is an omen of bad things to come, but nevertheless, Happy New Year to you. A blizzard is coming to the Northeast, and that music threw me off for a couple of seconds. But other than that, all is well because it's the year in review, and I'm looking forward to a great show.
The music totally threw me off. It was really funny. But, you know, you have blizzards over there, and we had 77 degrees today. It was crazy. Hot.
Yeah,
oh, well.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Well, and also we have on the line boxing writer and professional boxing trainer Mike Cassell. He is in Philadelphia. He will be joining us as our guest media panel host. And I'm sure in Philadelphia it must be snowing as well.
Yeah, it's snowing pretty hard here, guys. And I got to tell you, the music threw me off, too, in the beginning. I thought I was on the wrong show. I thought I was going to have to talk about Anderson Silva or something. I didn't know what I was going to do.
Oh, my God. And poor Anderson Silva. I hope he's okay. I watched that replay, and I couldn't believe a leg could break like that, speaking of Anderson Silva. It looked like rubber. You guys saw that, right?
Pretty disgusting.
Yeah. I actually had the pleasure of watching it live, and I saw so many people, like their stomachs were churning. It was probably one of the most grotesque sports injuries I've ever seen in all my years of watching sports.
Yeah, it definitely brought back it brought back memories of Joe Theismann, Washington Redskins. It was pretty scary watching that leg snap like that.
I couldn't believe it because I saw the slow motion, and it really looked like it was one of those, remember those Stretch Armstrongs? It looked like one of those going around his foot. Crazy.
Oof.
All right. Yes, well, well wishes to Anderson Silva, that's for sure. Live callers, 347-324-5998. I'll say that again. Live callers, 347-324-5998. You can Twitter us at Real Combat Media. Or my Twitter is at BoxingGirl, BXINGIRL, or the Boxing Prophet at BoxingProphet68. Mike, I always forget your Twitter. What is your Twitter again?
My Twitter is Fighting City 1.
Fighting City 1, like the number 1?
Fighting City 1. The number 1, you got it.
All right, cool. And you can find us on Facebook at Real Combat Media in the search bar. Starting next week, our shows will be on Wednesdays, same time, 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. The recorded version will be available on iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, Stitcher, RealCombatMedia.com, and YouTube right after the show. Our topics for this show will be, we have many of the great boxing moments of 2013. We will also debate and announce the 2013 Real Combat Media Boxing Awards. Later in the show, our featured guest will be one of the best pound-for-pound fighters, undefeated world champion Mikey Garcia. And I'm really looking forward to talking to Mikey again. He trains from 2 to 4 Pacific time, so it's right into his training. So he's going to come on probably around 5 o'clock. We'll look forward to hearing from Mikey. So I have to tell you, I actually went out New Year's Eve. I had a fantastic time. I usually don't do much, but I ended up like making myself go out, and I met up with Michelle Chong, who's a boxing writer, and Jill Morley, who did Fight Like a Girl. And we went out. They had their spouses, and we also met up with, it was just a blast. We went to a pub. We heard Drew Young's band called the Red Muffs. Now, I don't know why they're called the Red Muffs, guys, but that's what they're called. You can laugh. I was wondering, too. I'm like, why are they called the Red Muffs? I am not sure. I don't know. Let's just say, oh, gosh, I don't know. But the band was fun. It was like classic rock. We had a good time. There was a couple of real drunk people that got thrown out. That was very amusing. I thought I was going to have to referee, but I didn't. And we were there with Linda and Bill, and it's just a fantastic time. Did you guys celebrate New Year's Eve? Mike, what about you?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you know what? It was a quiet New Year's. I spent with my kids, and I've been watching fight tape because we got a fight this month. So I just kind of just sat and watched a lot of tape of the guy we're going to fight, and tried to get a game plan put together for what we're doing in the gym. And that's basically what I did. I basically I worked on New Year's Eve watching boxing. So it's not really work. It's fun, But that's what I did on New Year's Eve. Kind of sat in a corner and watched fight tape, pretty much.
Oh, my God, you're a fun date. Sit and watch fight tape, and that's exciting. Okay, well, tell us, Mike, I know your guy's name is Tony. What's his last name?
Ferrante.
The fighter? Okay, and then just tell us a teeny bit. When is he fighting? Do we know who he's fighting?
Yeah, he's fighting Anthony Caputo for the Pennsylvania Cruiserweight state title. And, this is kind of our first fight since last year. When we knocked out Isa Akbarbayev in Madison Square Garden. Actually, on the undercard, Mikey Garcia, Salida. That's when I first met Mikey, and it was a great fight. And Tony's, we've been off for a year, a lot of complications, but we're back in the saddle and we're ready to fight. And after we knock Caputo out, which I think we're going to do in about 2 rounds, we're going to be looking for a fight with probably Rico Hoya, and maybe something. Who knows? At the end of the year, we may even get having some conversations that if we can get through these 2 fights, that at the end of the year, maybe some big payoff for us. So we're just going to keep working, and we're going to keep banging. And I got a real fighter. This kid is a tremendous. He's a talented fighter. He's really working hard, and hopefully we can shock the world at the end of the year. Let's put it that way. That's what we're looking to do.
And where is he fighting? In Pennsylvania?
Yeah, he's fighting at the Harris Casino in Chester, PA on January 31st. Anybody listening out there that wants to get there, it's going to be a great card, a bunch of great fighters on this card, and we're the main event. And when you buy a ticket to see Tony Boom Boom Ferrante fight, the one thing you're going to see is a fight. I mean, the guy either comes he comes to knock people out. I mean, that's all we're training for is knockouts right now. And I've been training Tony for about 2 years. And in the 2 years, about a year and a half, rather, and in that time, we've only been training for knockouts. He's a very heavy-handed puncher, and I changed his style up a little bit. I kind of put a little bit of the Philly boxing techniques with him. A little bit of the clamshell, a little bit some other things, and he's come along really well. He's a very good student, and it's going to be interesting to see what we can do by the end of the year. I'm real excited for him.
Wow, that's exciting. Well, good luck, and I know we're going to have him on the show sometime soon, so then Mike, Tony could tell us his story, because I know he has quite the story, and I'll be looking forward to hearing about that. So we'll look forward to his fight. What about you, Prophet? How was your New Year's Eve?
It was good. It was very, very tame. I got off, my New Year's resolution got off to an early start. I figured I want to have a nice and tame 2014 with no drama in my life. So I hung out locally with an old pal who I reconnected with from college, who I haven't seen in years. And so we just hung out locally in the neighborhood. I was home by 1:30 in the morning, which is pretty early by the Prophet standards. And that's about it, really. Saw a band. I don't know if it was as good as the band that you saw, but it was a good rock and roll band. They played music from every decade, and it was a fun evening. But tame.
Did you wear
very tame.
Prophet, did you wear your robe and get out there and dance with the boxing Prophet on it?
I thought about wearing my boxing Prophet robe, but it was to my chagrin, it was an older crowd, so I don't think they would have appreciated my attire if I had worn the boxing Prophet robe. If it was a younger crowd, maybe, but
I don't know, Prophet. The women, you could be the cougar, or actually the cougar could go for you. You could be the cub in that situation, and you could wear your little robe. She might have really enjoyed that.
Hey, listen, beggars can't be choosers. I don't mind cougars. I don't discriminate with the age groups. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm sure you don't. Well, that's very cool. Well, that's exciting. We all seem to do something fun in our own way, so I'm glad. Happy New Year again. And we are going to, let's see here, we got to move on because we want to talk. Okay, so we have awards for Real Combat Media Boxing Awards, and then we have our own ideas who we think should have won. And I'm going to start going from the bottom up, and we're going to start off with the KO of the Year, okay? So I'm going to hear what you guys have to say. We'll go Prophet, then Mike, and then me, and then I'm going to tell you what Real Combat Media Boxing, who they gave the award to. So Prophet, for KO of the Year 2013, who do you give it to?
Well, just a quick couple of runner-ups. I thought Lucas Matize's knockout over Lamont Peterson was brutal, and it scared Danny Garcia half to death at ringside, so that has to get an honorable mention. The sexy pick is Chad Dawson getting knocked out by Adonis Stevenson, but I don't, that was a brutal knockout, but, Dawson doesn't have the best chin in the world, so that's probably another runner-up. My knockout of the year, we often talk about how the jab is a very underrated punch. To me, so is a hard body shot. And body shots in boxing don't get the attention that they so, richly deserve. I thought that Triple G's knockout over Matthew Macklin with that beautifully placed left hook to the liver was just brilliant. The way Macklin fell, the way he was trembling on the canvas for what seemed like an eternity was absolutely vicious. No one loves a better one-punch knockout than me to the chin or to the head, but we got to start appreciating shots to the body. So, like I said, it was very violently placed. The reaction by Macklin was priceless if you're into brutality, and just the way he fell on the canvas, it was just brutal in every sense of the word. Triple G's devastating knockout over Matthew Macklin with a wonderfully placed body shot is my knockout of the year for 2013.
All right. Well, let me get Mike back on here, and then we'll hear what Mike's KO of the year. All right, Mike.
Well, I've seen a lot of KOs this year, a lot that were untelevised. But, I'm going to have to go mainstream with Adonis Stevenson. I mean, in a field, loaded with so many candidates, Stevens stands out because, he really avenged the only blemish on his resume when he knocked out Daniel Boone. And then, he was just a guy that nobody really saw as they didn't take him seriously until he fought Dawson. They just thought he was a guy that maybe might have an outside chance. But when he fought Dawson, he showed everybody. Everybody thought Dawson was going to win that fight. They thought Dawson was a much more technically proficient fighter. He was going to get it done. But, Stevenson just, showed everybody, how good he can be, wiping the canvas with Boris Cloud and doing all the stuff that he did. I love Adonis Stevenson. I think he deserves, he deserves knockout of the year. I just love that guy. And I think, and Triple G, I can't say enough about that guy. And the Prophet is right. That was a devastating, a devastating knock. Excuse me, I'm sorry. A devastating knockout. Thank you. And it was a devastating knockout. Triple G, I love watching him fight. I love the way he goes to the body. I expect Triple G to do that. That's why I'm not giving it to him. I didn't expect Adonis Stevenson to be the guy that he actually has become, the fighter that he has become. He's a much more proficient fighter than we first thought. And and he also has serious knockout power. So I'm going mainstream, and I want to give a little shout-out to my boy, Tony Ferranti, when he knocked out Isa Akrabayev in round 10 at the Garden in January, because that guy was out on the canvas. They had to take him off on a stretcher. He was out for 10 minutes, and he was out. But nobody knows. That wasn't a televised fight, but I have to give my own boy a shout-out. That was a tremendous knockout. But mainstream, Adonis Stevenson all the way, man. He just really shocked me with that Chad Dawson knockout like that.
You know, I appreciate you shouting out to Tony, because there are so many fighters that are in fights that you never will see, that don't get televised. They don't have the right promoters, the right publicists, and they have amazing knockout power and amazing knockouts, great fighters. And I want to hear more about those as well, because it's really kind of not fair. So if you have more of those, please bring them up, because I would love to give credit where credit is due. Now, let me see. For myself, for knockout fighter of the of the year, I did as well. I thought Triple G with Matthew Macklin. That was incredible. I have to give mention to Johnny Gonzalez over Abner Matas. I actually have him in a couple of places. I thought him stopping Abner in that way, I thought he was fantastic, and that was really unexpected. But, yeah, I think between Triple G and Johnny Gonzalez, and then our KO of the Year from Real Combat Media Boxing Radio Awards, Javier Fortuna from Javier versus Miguel Zamullo. Javier threw vicious left hooks, mostly to the face. He was kind of wild. It wasn't a very pretty fight the way he fights, but he did accomplish what he was looking for, and he got the KO award from Real Combat Media Boxing Awards. That goes to Javier Fortuna. Okay, did you guys see that fight?
Absolutely. Great fight.
Yep, it was a great fight, it was a great fight and a great knockout.
Yeah, so we agree. We agree that was a great knockout, and I'm sure there are so many more great knockouts that, you know, we just don't see, because people don't realize there's fights. They look at their little box and they're watching their TV, and they don't realize that there's fights happening all the time. I mean, here, as far as amateur fights alone, we have sometimes 3 a weekend, 3 shows. So as far as pro fights, there's tons all over the world all the time. All right, we're going to move up to Upset of the Year award. Prophet, who did you give the Upset of the Year award to?
You know, to me, it was basically a 2-horse race. If you want to put it in those terms. You know, for shock value alone, I would give it to Johnny Gonzalez against Abner Morris, because Gonzalez seemed to be a fighter who was, past his prime. We knew he had one-punch power, and we knew Abner Morris sort of had a shaky chin. But the way he brutalized him in 1 round shocked me. But I'm going to go with a pick that you'll love, and I'm sure Mike will love, and I will dislike it because I guaranteed he would win. A fight that I watched, and it kind of traumatized me. Marcos Maidana brutalizing Adrian Broner for 12 rounds is my upset of the year, not necessarily because Maidana won, but how he won. He won so easily. I thought Broner would win 10 out of the 12 rounds, but like I said on previous shows, he believed his own press clippings, and for whatever reason, he just didn't have it that night. And Marcos Maidana is a warrior, but if you look at his resume, he had trouble with a way past his prime and over the hill, Eric Morales. He struggled with Justacito Lopez, even though he won. So if Adrian Broner brings his A game, you'd figure he'd box beautifully and beat Maidana easily. But Maidana knocked him down twice, to his credit. Like I said before, I was traumatized in watching the fight because I believe that Broner is a great champion and a future great, and maybe he will. Maybe he'll learn from this loss and bounce back and become a better fighter. But a slight edge for Maidana Broner over Gonzalez Abner Morris, only because of how violently he beat up Broner for most of the 12 rounds. So Maidana Broner was my upset of the year for 2013.
All right. Well, don't forget, styles make fights, too. I don't necessarily know if Broner's going to come back and be a better fighter against Maidana, but he could against somebody else. What do you think, Mike?
Well, I think Broner as I always thought, is a pedestrian fighter at best. And I wouldn't even put him on my upset of the year only because I just didn't think it was going to be a fight. And I'm not trying to brag about it, but there was a couple of guys that I knew, too, that thought the same thing, that, Broner was a flat-footed fighter with really fast hands. He has the ability to be a great fighter, but I think that I just don't think his head is even there with his comments after the fight. But I'm going to have to go with, the upset of the year to me is really Johnny Gonzalez over Abner Mares. I mean, nobody thought that was going to happen. Mares was a favorite going in against Gonzalez for the featherweight champion, lost his belt to Ponce de Leon a year earlier. Gonzalez just landed a clean left hand to the chin, dropping him. And, everybody that knows boxing, everybody that watches boxing, everybody that watches it from the inside, or even novice fans from the outside who knew a little bit about these guys, were shocked at that fight. And another upset I want to talk about is, again, a lot of people on the inside didn't really think that Lucas Matisse was going to lose to Danny Garcia. And I got to give a shout-out to Danny Garcia for beating up Lucas Matisse. And Danny really gets no respect as a fighter. In Philly, people know who he is. They a lot of guys, he has a really big amateur career, and, they know who he is. But the fact of the matter is Danny Garcia gets little to no respect nationally. And in Philly, even a lot of the trainers going into this fight said, well, this is the fight where Danny's going to really get beat up. And I believed in Danny. I really believed him, and I picked Danny to win this fight. And I tell you what, man, that was a shocker to a lot of people who really know boxing on the inside, maybe even a prophet. I don't know who he picked for that fight. But a lot of people thought that Lucas Matisse was going to finally stop Danny Garcia and end his little win streak.
All right. Well, okay. So I'm going to tell you. For me, it was as well. It was Danny Garcia versus Lucas Matisse. I thought, with the, majority thought that Lucas Matisse, with his, power and his record, I thought he was going to kind of walk through Danny Garcia. Even though I know Danny is a great fighter and definitely showed that time and time again, but I didn't have complete faith in Danny winning this, and so that's why he is my, upset of the year, would be Danny Garcia versus Lucas Matisse. I kind of went back and forth on Maidana versus Broner, but I think I'd go back for Danny Garcia. Real Combat Media Boxing Awards gave it to Johnny Gonzalez versus Abner Mares. That's who Real Combat Media Boxing. They feel that Johnny Gonzalez, it was definitely the upset of the year. Nobody expected Johnny to come back, and even though he has that one-punch capability, but to stop Abner Mares the way he did. So that's who they gave the award to. What's interesting is on Twitter, Danny Garcia was asking, what is my best fight? Like, which fight do you like the best? And I wrote, this was just yesterday, I wrote Danny Garcia versus Lucas Matisse. And I said, is my favorite. You quieted a lot of the critics with that one, Danny. And he retweeted it because I guess he agrees. And it must not always feel good to be considered not completely the underdog, but like you were saying, Mike, I mean, it's like he's from Philly, and how can people in Philly not know that he's going to win when he's their boy? So, but anyway,
you know what, though?
What?
I'm sorry. No. As far as Danny goes, when he fought in Philly at the Leoncourt Center a few years ago on the undercard of Bernard Hopkins, when Hopkins fought Lennis, he really didn't look that good, and he stood by himself after the fight, after his fight in the crowd, and there weren't even people acknowledging him, and I kind of felt bad for him. I thought he was a really good fighter. I thought he kind of had a tough night, but I did see flashes of real power in him. He was just in with a good fighter, and but he just didn't look that great. And I guess in front of the Philly crowd, a lot of people had to see it, believe it or not, on a national level to get to love Danny Garcia. They had to go outside of Philly to fall in love with Danny. It's crazy.
That is crazy. And like I said a few minutes ago, styles make fights. I mean, Danny was a superb Olympic-style boxing athlete, an amateur athlete, and he obviously showing everyone now that he's just as good in the pros, and I think he's just going to get better and better. He's a young man, and he's got a very funny father who trains him well, so I think he has nowhere to go except up. I only see great things for him. All right, we're going to move on to Trainer of the Year. All right, Prophet, who do you have for Trainer of the Year?
Trainer of the Year was actually very difficult. I mean, you can go with Robert Garcia for the work he did with Madonna, upsetting Broner, and the tremendous work what he did with Mikey Garcia, winning 2 titles in 2 different weight classes in the same year. Or you can go with Abel Sanchez, who did tremendous work with Triple G. But believe it or not, my trainer of the year is Freddie Roach. He led Miguel Cotto to a nice comeback fight. I mean, granted, Delvin Rodriguez is not going to make anyone's pound-for-pound list anytime soon, but Cotto brutalized him and is now on his way to a potential showdown with Sergio Martinez. So he revitalized Cotto's career. He also brought back Manny Pacquiao, and Pacquiao dominated Brandon Rios in one-sided fashion. Pacquiao not, looking pretty sharp, doing what he had to do. And he also did tremendous work with Provodnikov, who may be the breakout star of the year. Fought very, very well against Timothy Bradley, and then came back later on in the year and pretty much made Mike Alvarado quit on his stool. So I've never been the biggest fan of Freddie Roach, but you can't deny that 2013 was a very, very great year for him. So, I think he's won the award multiple times with the Riders, and I honestly think this year he earned it. With the wonderful work he's done with Pacquiao, Cotto, and Provodnikov, Freddie Roach is my 2013 Trainer of the Year.
Okay, Freddie Roach. All right, what do you think, Mike?
Well, I love Robert Garcia, and I think that Prophet hit it right on the head with Mikey. I mean, what can you say about Robert Garcia that hasn't already been said? He's a very humble guy. Although, I have to tell you, I wasn't impressed with the Pacquiao-Rios fight. I thought as a trainer he truly failed in that fight. And I watched Freddie Roach in a lot of fights, and Freddie Roach hasn't failed a whole lot, even when his fighter has lost. I think that Freddie has always done a tremendous job. In fact, even though the writers love Freddie and they pick him a lot of times, Freddie Roach, in my opinion, when he first started out, he was a nobody, and nobody really wanted to train with him, and he was training actors. Freddie knows what he's doing. He had a 50-some professional fight. He's a very, very good trainer. And the one thing about Freddie Roach that makes Freddie different from a lot of trainers is that Freddie will know his fighter's opponent better than the coach that is coaching that fighter. Freddie will learn everything he can about the fighter that he's fighting, that his fighter is facing, and he will put a game plan on, and Freddie will not give you vague instructions. He will give you exact instructions, and you'll be able to fall back on what your training was with Freddie. Freddie trains a specific way, and you can fall back on that training, and you can never see him falter in the corner. He never falls apart. He knows exactly what to do. So I can't agree more, any more with Prophet. If Freddie Roach is the 2013 Trainer of the Year, his work with Pacquiao to bring him back from the abyss after that tremendous knockout loss to Marquez in 2012 in December, and to bring him back, and the work that he did with Provodnikov, the first person Provodnikov thanked was Freddie Roach, and there's a reason why. Freddie had the game plan for that fight, and that's why Provodnikov was so special in that fight. So, and I want to give a little shout-out, too, since we talked about Danny Garcia. I want to give Angel Garcia a shout-out as a tremendous trainer for what he's done this year with Danny. I mean, I don't care if Eric Morales is done, but they beat him twice. They beat Amir Khan. They totally destroyed Zab Judah. And they destroyed Lucas Matisse. I mean, Angel Garcia has done so much with Danny, and I think he deserves credit because I think Danny is very, very, very susceptible to what Angel tells him. I mean, Angel is an integral part of that team, and I don't think that Danny would be where he is right now without Angel. So I want to give a shout-out, but, to go mainstream, I have to give it to Freddie and be honest. Freddie has done a tremendous job this year.
All right, so you both have Freddie. I find this really hard because there are so many trainers and so many coaches. What exactly are you looking for? Okay, how many fighters get to fight for the millions of dollars? Who has the best guys? Who doesn't have a win-loss record? I just find it, you have these guys in the amateurs that are coaching these little kids tons of them, taking them around, giving them, like Broner said about his coach, Mike Stafford, used to take all these kids to eat lunch or to feed them and take them to the gym. You have these kind of coaches every single day that should be Coach of the Year. So for me, I could never pick one. I can say Robert Garcia, Freddie Roach, Abel Sanchez, Virgil Hunter, John Bray, Ben Lira, Kenny Porter. Come on, look at Sean Porter.
Mike Cassell. Mike Cassell.
Yeah, Mike Cassell. Mike Cassell. Joel Diaz, exactly. Charles Leverett, Joe Zanders, Bashir Abdul. I mean, there's so many out there. Rodrigo Mosqueda. Let's see, who's in Maywood? We have Mondo Huerta. You have Fidel Briseño. I mean, there's all over this country, there are coaches that could be Coaches of the Year, and I'm not picking one. Real Combat Media Boxing Awards has given it to Robert Garcia. They give Robert Garcia Trainer of the Year. And, of course, he deserves it. He has had a great year with his fighters and with his brother, and I would not dispute that. So Robert Garcia is the Trainer of the Year from Real Combat Media Boxing Radio Awards. And Mike Cassell and Prophet, the Boxing Prophet, give it to Freddie Roach. And I just met Freddie Roach at Wild Card, and that was quite fun. And he was very nice and spoke about boxing and talked to me and answered questions and said he's going to come on the show. So that was a complete pleasure. I enjoyed that. All right, we are going to move on to our comeback of the year. Who is the fighter that is the comeback of the year for you, Prophet?
Well, you could say Miguel Cotto, because he did come off of a 2-fight losing streak and showed the whole boxing community that he is indeed back with a vengeance when he destroyed Delvin Rodriguez. This is probably one of Christie's favorite. Tony Thompson. You know, a lot of people forget that David Price, at least in my mind, might have been the heir apparent to the Klitschko's throne in terms of the next great heavyweight champion. And Tony Thompson knocked him out twice in one calendar year. Christie went on the show, said Thompson would upset Price. I told her I was going to buy her a steak dinner if that came to fruition. Of course, the same thing would happen with Adana Brona. Christy Rosario's on that sort of role. And Tony Thompson, you know, came on the show, and, you know, he bragged that he was going to beat Price, and he did. He beat him twice. So, you know, of course, he would lose an eliminator to Cooper Tulev towards the end of the year, but he gave a good account of himself. It was a close, competitive fight. You could say Tony Thompson had a great comeback here. But to me, absolutely, unequivocally, and this was kind of the easiest category for me, James Kirkland has to be the 2013 Comeback Fighter of the Year. He was off for a year and a half. He was lost. He didn't know what to do with his life. He reconnected with Ann Wolfe, and in a fight that kind of reminded me of the Angulo fight, at least for a little while. The back-and-forth war with Tapia for the first, round and a half, 2 rounds. And then, you know, you just saw what Kirkland's capable of, and we saw what a fighter is capable of doing with the right trainer in their corner. We speak about having the right trainer, whether it's male or female, in your corner, and James Kirkland is just a different animal. He's a different beast with Ann Wolfe in his corner. And, you know, Tapia might not have been the best opponent. You know, he was an undefeated kid, but he didn't have a lot of names on his resume. But that doesn't change the fact that you didn't hear from Kirkland for a year and a half. A lot of people thought he was left for dead. But he came back, he dedicated himself to the sport, reconnected with Ann Wolfe, and the results were great. And, you know, it was a great performance. Bigger and better things for him down the road. Maybe he's earned a potential fight with Triple G. Mike and I don't think he's got much of a chance with Triple G. Probably will only last 3 or 4 rounds, but at least, you know, he's a very crowd-pleasing fighter to watch, and he's back from the abyss. Congratulations to James Kirkland, my 2013 Comeback Fighter of the Year.
Well, I have to tell you, you know, if I keep saying who I want to win and I keep winning food, I'd be really fat because you owe me a steak. I have someone else, because I said Madonna as well, owes me a burrito. So if I keep betting food and people actually come through and give me the food, I may be a few 100 pounds, but I'm not sure. We'll see. You know, you mentioned Ann Wolfe, and I forgot, and I'd be remiss not to say her. Coach Ann Wolfe, Coach Christy Halbert, Coach Gloria Peak. There are so many coaches that need honorable mention today. So if we think of any more, we need to just kind of throw them out there. All right, Mike, who is your comeback fighter of the year?
Well, first of all, there's not a trainer in the world that means more to their fighter than Ann Wolfe to James Kirkland. As I said, Angel Garcia to Danny Garcia. I mean, this is a perfect example of the perfect pair. When Kirkland was knocked out, I mean, remember going into the Ashita fight back in 2011, I mean, Kirkland was just a wrecking crew. He was just going through fighters, Brian Vera, Joel Julio, just knocking out everybody, destroying everybody. And he goes and he meets Ashita. Ashita knocks him out in one round, stops him in one round. I mean, just a tremendous, downside, then jail and all kinds of things. But, with Ann Wolfe, I mean, you can see the difference. And, he shocked me. And I'm not very surprised in boxing, but he surprised me. Normally, when I see a fighter like that and I see what they do in the ring, I see that he goes back with his hands down, he comes forward with his hands down, does a lot of bad things. But this guy just has something. He has the will to win. When there's a dare to be great situation, James Kirkland steps up to be great. And he's the type of fighter that, will dig down, will dig deep. He's fighting for everything. There are some fighters that are fighting for something. James Kirkland's fighting for everything. So he's absolutely my guy. I mean, this year, I would say out of anybody, he surprised me the most. Now, he's been winning since 2011, but just like the Prophet mentioned, there's a lot of turbulence going on in that guy's career. A lot of things going on, a lot of back and forth, switching trainers, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Now that he's back with Ann Wolfe, now that his head seems to be in the right direction, now that he realizes that it's a lottery. I mean, he's so lucky to be where he's at right now. He's going to do some great things, and we're going to see him in some tremendous fights. Again, I don't know how long he'll last with Triple G, but, man, is it going to be fun to watch. He is going to hit him, and he is going to try to hurt him. And that is the kind of fighter you want in with Triple G. So, yeah, he's definitely my comeback fighter of the year. I love the guy, and I just hope that he keeps his head right, and I hope he stays with Ann Wolfe, because I'm going to tell you something. I could probably talk to Ann Wolfe for months about boxing. I've talked to her before. I love that woman. She knows boxing, and if James will listen to her, he's going to be very successful in the middleweight division.
All right, so we have 2 for James Kirkland. Well, here I go. And yes, Prophet, you nailed it. I have to mention Miguel Cotto. Love Miguel Cotto. He has the heart. He's a warrior. He comes in and gives you a great show. He's a great fighter. I thought Delvin Rodriguez was a good fighter, and Miguel just took him out. And I think Miguel Cotto, and I have to give another mention to Pacquiao versus Rios. I think Pacquiao also deserves honorable mention for comeback
Amen.
Fighter of the year. Because it's like everyone was saying, oh, after Marquez, he's done, he's out. I never thought that. I mean, people get caught, and unfortunately some people get caught more than others. And if you get caught, it's not fun, but you either learn from it and you come back, or you never learn from it and you're never the same. Pacquiao came back. I think he's a better fighter, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he has to do in the future as well. And, of course, James Kirkland, he did fantastic, and he deserves the Real Combat Media Boxing Award for 2013 goes to Comeback of the Year, James Kirkland. So you guys hit it on the button with James Kirkland. You guys, we are going to come back. We're going to go to a commercial and come right back and talk more about these awards. We have the Fighter of the Year Award and the Fight of the Year Award, and we also have Mikey Garcia coming up right after 5. So we'll be right back in 1 minute and 32 seconds. Don't go away.
This is Real Combat Media Radio. Check us out at realcombatmedia.com. While you're there, check out the Feed the Poor link on the bottom of every article, and you can send a donation if you're interested. That is, once again, on the bottom of every article as well as on the top of the website. If you are an MMA, boxing, or fitness business and interested in sponsoring our website or radio podcast, send us an email. Advertising at realcombatmedia.com. Once again, that is advertising at realcombatmedia.com. Make sure to check out the Real Combat Media MMA and boxing store at the top of the menu at realcombatmedia.com. We carry a collection of products. We have the Cardio Mask, which is excellent for all fighters, endurance athletes, and serious fitness enthusiasts. Once you are in the Real Combat Media store, click on the banner on that page. We also carry Alpha Brain. Alpha Brain is a great and natural product which activates your brain's neurotransmitters and helps you think more clearly, which improves brain function. You can also purchase the world's healthiest plant protein, which comes from hemp. There are many other products on the online store, and click on the On It banner at the Real Combat Media store and you can purchase Alpha Brain and other health products. Use the discount code Real Combat Media and you will receive 10% off at the checkout store on the On It, that is ONNIT, on the banner at Real Combat Media store. Buckle up, here we go. Let's get this show started.
Welcome back to Real Combat Media Boxing Radio. This is episode 40. I'm your host, Christy Rosario, here in Los Angeles, with my co-host, Richard Solomon, the boxing prophet in New York City, and Mike Cassell in Philadelphia. He is our he's our media guest panel host. Today, you can call us live at 347-324-5998, 347-324-5998. Find us at Real Combat Media on Twitter I say that really stupidly, don't I? All right, at Twitter, or at Real Combat Media, at Boxing Girl, BXINGIRL, or at Boxing Prophet 68 for the Boxing Prophet, or Fight City 1, it's the number 1, for Mike Cassell. Find us on Facebook at Real Combat Media in the search bar. And don't forget, starting next week, our shows will be on at Wednesdays. Same time, 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. And we are back. So far we have spoken and discussed and debated our KO of the Year award. Real Combat Media Boxing awarded Javier Fortuna for his knockout against Miguel Zamudio. The Upset of the Year award went to Johnny Gonzalez versus Abner Matas. That was also Real Combat Media Boxing award. And our Trainer of the Year went to Robert Garcia, and the Comeback of the Year, which all of us agreed, was James Kirkland. Now we're going to move on. We're going to go to Fighter of the Year. And the Fighter of the Year, that's an interesting one. I guess you're going to have your own little way of thinking who should be the Fighter of the Year when there are so many fighters. And again, I'll go on my rant. There's so many fighters that you never get to see that are just fantastic. They don't have the right connections. But we are picking a fighter that I guess most of us have seen. So, Prophet, who is your Fighter of the Year?
What made 2013 so great was that you have a plethora of candidates for Fighter of the Year. You know, you have Adonis Stevenson and Sergey Kovalev, who brought, redemption back to the light heavyweight division. You have Danny Garcia, who Mike pointed out, kind of shocked the world when he beat Lucas Matisse. He had a good year, a solid year. A lot of people, Triple G is a superstar, 4 wins, 4 by knockout in one calendar year. To me, I'm surprised that a lot of people aren't going with Rigondeaux. Rigondeaux, to me, had a breakout year, embarrassing Nonito Donaire, and then basically winning every round against Agabeko, who never, was always competitive in a lot of his fights. A lot of writers that I've been reading about picked Floyd Mayweather, but I wouldn't have him as my Fighter of the Year, only because Robert Guerrero, to me, didn't look that impressive in his previous fights. Against Andre Berto and Solak Aiden to earn himself a fight with Mayweather. So the fact that Mayweather destroyed Guerrero, I expected that. And Canelo, even though he came. He beat Austin Trout via close decision. I actually had Trout winning the fight by a point. Again, he was inexperienced coming in, and Floyd Mayweather did what he had to do. If you want to say Floyd Mayweather's the best fighter in the world, that's fine. But the Fighter of the Year is the man who had the best, 365 days, in that time frame. Not the best fighter with the most skills. So to me, believe it or not, the Fighter of the Year in my eyes is Timothy Bradley. After the Manny Pacquiao debacle, Bradley wanted to prove to the world that he could slug and do it all. And he fought 2 fighters with 2 different styles. Earlier in the year, he fought Provodnikov in a war. He was left for dead in the 2nd round, was knocked down in the 12th round. Yet in the middle rounds, he dominated. When he had to, he went toe-to-toe. He boxed beautifully and won a razor-thin decision in a fight that really brought him redemption. Everyone blames Timothy Bradley for the whole Pacquiao debacle. Why? Was it Bradley's fault that the judges gave him the fight? The same way that Mike is defending Danny Garcia, and rightly so, I have to defend Timothy Bradley. I couldn't believe that the boxing community blamed Timothy Bradley and jumped off his bandwagon after the judges made a mistake and gave him the decision against Pacquiao. It was disgraceful, and a lot of boxing fans, quite frankly, owe Timothy Bradley an apology. And what does Timothy Bradley do to follow up the war with Provodnikov? He faces one of the greatest Mexican legends of all time and a great counterpuncher in Juan Manuel Marquez, and boxes beautifully, and for all intents and purposes dominates the fight and wins 8 out of 12 rounds and scores an easy decision victory. So he brawled with Provodnikov. He boxed beautifully against future first ballot Hall of Famer Juan Manuel Marquez. That's what a fighter of the year does. So yes, I guess if you want to say who the best fighter is in the world, you could say Floyd Mayweather Jr., but I love, a guy who proves the critics wrong, like Mike does with Danny Garcia. And for the fact that Timothy Bradley told all of his haters, you know what, I'm going to come back even stronger, and I'm going to show you guys why I could hang with, Manny Pacquiao, and I'm going to show you guys that you were wrong about me. And Danny Garcia did that in 2013, but not as much as Timothy Bradley did. So for all the reasons I just mentioned to you, Timothy Bradley Jr., and it's the toughest category out of all our awards. So many fighters had great years. Like I just mentioned, you could pick 8 or 9 candidates. But from a personal standpoint, nothing sticks out more than redemption. And I thought Timothy Bradley Jr. acquitted himself very well in 2013, and that's why he's my fighter of the year.
Yeah, I felt really bad when we were watching the reality show, and he was so down, and he's like, I'm coming in as an underdog, I'm the champion, so I'm happy for him, and yeah, I feel bad that he had so many critics, and hopefully he quieted his critics. I hope so. All right, Mike, who do you have for fighter of the year?
Well, in 2009, Lamont Peterson fought Timothy Bradley, and that's when I really knew who Timothy Bradley was and recognized him. And I knew that he was going to be great, and I knew that he was probably going to be better than a lot of fighters out there and maybe even get a pound for pound one day. He destroyed Lamont Peterson back in 2009 in December. People forget about that fight. They look at a lot of the controversial stuff later. The fight with Manny Pacquiao, there's no doubt in my mind that Manny Pacquiao won that fight. I picked Manny in that fight, and I was shocked at the judges' scorecards. However, I was really upset with the fact that people did blame Bradley for that. It had nothing to do with Timothy Bradley. Bradley fought his heart out, and honestly, against Manny Pacquiao, when most people, faltered, when Oscar De La Hoya quit in his stool, when Antonio Margarita had a broken ocular bone and was destroyed, Timothy Bradley stood toe-to-toe with Manny Pacquiao for 12 rounds and came away with a victory. And you know what? I give him all the credit in the world. In my mind, he didn't win the fight, but in his mind, he was so destroyed by that fight that he came back in his next fight against Ruslan Provodnikov. I mean, who are you going to fight in your next fight after a fight like that with Pacquiao? You fight one of the toughest fighters in the welterweight division, and he faces Ruslan Provodnikov, and he puts on just a show in that fight and defeats Provodnikov in what I call just a battle of will. I mean, Timothy Bradley, a good guy, a great guy, but my fighter of the year is going to be Mikey Garcia, and not because he's coming on the show today. And Mikey Garcia is one of the most I'll tell you what, he is definitely going to be pound for pound the best fighter in the world. There's no doubt in my mind. He is one of the most technically proficient fighters boxing today. He's fought 3 times in 2013. He destroyed Orlando Salida. I was there at the Garden for that fight. I couldn't believe what happened to Salida in that fight. I know how it stopped with the broken nose and everything, but Salida was done. The guy was down, how many times? He was down in round 1. He was down in round 3 and 4. It was just a mess. Mikey Garcia is one of those guys that will stand with you. He can box. He's a very pinpoint puncher. He destroyed Juan Manuel Lopez, TKOing him in 4 rounds, and he knocked out Roman Martinez in 8 rounds too. The guy this year, 2013, was Mikey Garcia's coming out party. I mean, and he's my fighter of the year, hands down. And I think that he's going to be, in the end, we're going to see Mikey Garcia in the Hall of Fame and arguably one of the greatest fighters that ever lived. I believe that he is just so talented, and we haven't even seen or scratched the surface of Mikey Garcia yet. So I'm so excited for him, and I'm excited for boxing fans because it's going to be an incredible next couple of years. And I know that I'm a little excited about Mikey, but I've always been excited about Mikey. I've liked Mikey for at least 4 years, and I've always thought he was going to be something special. But he's only proved to me. He's never proved me wrong yet. And I know that I'm going way out here picking Garcia. He's going to be on the show today, but that's my pick.
No, I think that's a good pick. I think you both have good picks. I think Mikey Garcia, is a phenomenal fighter. I mean, I saw him in the amateurs. He was amazing. And then, here he is at the pros. He went through that ordeal where he just could not make that weight. I was watching that again last night, and I was like, wow, it's heartbreaking. But he still depleted himself, came back, knocked out Juanma, came back again with Martinez. He's a phenomenal fighter, and I'm happy he's coming on. He's a good guy, too, and I like him a lot. But I have to tell you that my pick was I laughed because, I don't know, Prophet probably knows, but I think Guillermo Rigondeaux is just phenomenal. I mean, he has, 12 fights. He is a two-time gold medalist. He had, mucho. He had mucho. He had lots of fights as an amateur, only about 12 fights as a pro. But he is a phenomenal fighter. I could watch him any day. He's a technician. He picks apart his fighters. I don't think there was anything wrong with Joseph Agbeko like you guys do. I think Joseph just could not get it. He was just so out of his rhythm. And, again, styles make fight. And Rigondeaux is awkward to fight. He's not flashy. For me, he is definitely my fighter of the year because there's so many. I'm sorry. I mean, there's Danny Garcia. There's tons. And Mikey Garcia. But Rigondeaux is just, it frustrates me because if he was fighting people and he was smashing through them and he did it in he looked fantastic and like James Kirkland or like Triple G, people would love him. People would be like, oh my God, this is our fighter of the year. Let's let Bob Arum would be putting him on all the time on his shows. But unfortunately, he's just for us boxing people that love the sweet science. He is a phenomenal fighter. So in that case, in that situation, he is my fighter of the year, Guillermo Rigondeaux. First, Nonito Donaire, then Joseph Agbeko, and I hope I keep seeing him. He's phenomenal. Now, we'll have to tell you, though, Fighter of the Year 2013 from Real Combat Media Boxing Awards goes to Danny Garcia. First, Zab Judah, then Lucas Matisse victories. He is a phenomenal fighter, well-deserved, Danny Garcia. So he is the Fighter of the Year for 2013. There you have it. We are going to wait on Fight of the Year because Mikey is going to be able to call in just a few minutes. You want to talk? Why don't we talk a little bit about any of the fights that the fighters that we just talked about, and then we'll wait for Mikey to call in because it would be silly for us to go to the Fight of the Year when we'll have to cut it short. Prophet, any news that you wanted to go, and don't make this like a half hour, okay? Just quickly, do you have any news that you want to talk about?
Well, no, I just wanted to point out about how certain fighters took a step back in 2013, and some like Mikey Garcia and Danny Garcia and Triple G rose to the forefront, while guys like Nonito Donaire, Carl Flock, Adrian Brawner, and Abner Morris might have taken a couple of steps backwards. And that's what made 2013 such a great year. The way everyone's pound-for-pound list was totally shaken up. You had so many elite fighters that either lost by knockout or, decision, and you thought that their best days were behind them. And then you had guys who came out of nowhere like Kovalev, like Adonis Stevenson, and who revitalized the sport of boxing, and it really made 2013 special for me. That's what I'm going to remember most about this year, how certain fighters kind of got old and are fading into obscurity, and plenty of superstars, breakout stars, young, fresh stars. Everyone says with Mayweather and Ward, who's next? Well, Mike and you mentioned that the superstars who are going to carry the torch. Rigondeaux, Danny Garcia, Mikey Garcia, who will be on the show soon. There are so many superstars. I hate it when people say, who's the next star in boxing? 2013 proved that there are plenty of superstars, and to come in 2014. It was a great year, a very shocking year, and a great year for the sport, I think.
I agree, and I feel kind of bad. You are really great at what you talk about, Prophet. You have a lot of insight. Sometimes you go on, and I have a hard time getting in there to just stop it on the time. So don't be insulted. I think you're great. Okay, don't want you to be insulted. But I do have to tell you something. I was on Boxing Scene today, and I ran into a video of Austin Trout in a bathtub with 3 women doing an interview. Did you guys ever see that?
No.
No.
You guys sound speechless. I'm serious. There are 3 women, and they obviously have bathing suits on in a bubble bath with Austin Trout, and he's so cute. He's just so sweet because you could tell he's feeling like, oh my God, what am I doing here? But they're asking boxing questions. And they're having a real interview in the bathtub.
Well, I hope that bathwater helps him fight better, because in his last fight he looked horrible. I mean, just dreadful.
Yeah, Mike kind of took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say that could explain his woeful performance against Ruslan Lara in his last fight.
You guys are mean. We're talking about a bathtub, and we're talking about interviews, and a nice guy named Austin Trout. No matter what, he's a great fighter. He's a nice guy. Whatever happened in his last fight against Ruslan Lara, you guys got to check it out. But you know what?
Wait a minute, Christy, wait a minute. What if it was Adrian Broner in a bathtub doing the interview? Would he have been a nice guy? I mean, come on.
This is the thing about Austin Trout. Austin Trout is sitting there and just having an interview. There was nothing going on. They were wearing bathing suits. It would be different if it was somebody else. And I'm not going to mention his name because I give this guy a hard time all the time. But you know what? We have our world champion on, so I'm going to go and I'm going to put you guys aside for a second so we can bring on Mikey Garcia, okay? Mikey, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing good. Thank you.
We were just laughing because I was on Boxing Scene today, and I saw an interview with Austin Trout in a bathtub with 3 women. Did you ever see that?
No, I did not see that.
That's the new strategy. Would you do that? Would you interview in a bathtub?
Nah, I would never do that. You would never see me do something like that, especially not do interviews, videotaping or anything like that. No way.
I know you wouldn't, but it was funny, and you have to just go to Boxing Scene. I mean, Austin Trout, he was very serious. He was having a real interview, so nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong. But how are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. What you got done training right now?
I know. Thank you for coming on. We're happy to have you, and I know that you are fighting on January 25th in Madison Square Gardens in New York against Juan Carlos Burgos. Well, that's exciting. How do you feel this time?
We feel good. It's nice to have another fight, in New York. The past couple of times that I've been there have been really good for me. Good turnout, good support from local fans. And, I mean, we want to start out the year strong. We want to get this fight and then, defend my title and, look forward to a very good 2014.
You will, I know. And, we were doing, Real Combat Media does their own kind of awards, and your brother Robert got the Trainer of the Year award, just so you know. You can let him know that.
Nice.
And we were going through talking about it because we debate. We don't always agree. There's so many trainers. There's so many fighters. And we have you'll talk to him in a little while, our panel host, Mike Cassell, was saying that you are his Fighter of the Year. And No, and I have to agree. You did a phenomenal job. I was, again, I was watching your 2 days of your television show, and it broke my heart to watch you trying to make that weight. Are you feeling better now at the weight you are?
Yeah, we have been working very hard, and I think the weight loss is a lot, a big reason why a lot of fighters struggle and sometimes perform badly. It's due to weight loss. They do it to where it's almost the breaking point of the body, and that time for me was really, really bad. It had never been not even close to what I went through for the Juan Manuel Lopez fight, and people got to see some of that through the 2-day special that HBO did. But now that I'm at 130, those 4 pounds definitely do help. It makes it a lot easier for me. It's still work. You still have to put in work to lose weight, but it's not as dramatic, or I won't have to do the things that I did back then. And also with Alex working with me, he's really good at what he does. He can really focus on my body, on my weight, my calorie intake, for the day's work, and everything is measured so well that it's really very easy for him to make me, drop the couple pounds that I have to drop to make the 130 division. And I feel very fast, very strong. I feel very comfortable at this division.
So, okay, let's make sure everyone knows. So Alex Ariza is your strength and conditioning coach. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So what does he put you through? Because even, I know, like you said, 4 pounds, it sounds like nothing to some people, but it is a relief. But I know it's still an effort. So what does he put you through to get to that weight, to get down to 130? Because we know you don't walk around at 130.
No, we don't walk around at 130. We normally walk at, 42, 44. And what we do is basically the way he makes me or allows me to lose the weight is on a very strict diet where everything's measured, portioned, like I said, for the day's work. Whatever I need to do later in the day, that's kind of how he goes off and breaks down the meals for me. And then as far as work, I mean, of course, we do all the morning runs, we do morning swims, we do the hills, we do stairs, just regular work to get in shape, to get in the best physical shape possible, along with sparring, training, mitts, with my brother and my dad. So all the physical work is still tough, but the weight comes off naturally because everything's portioned, all the meals, the food, the protein, all the sugars, everything is done in a way that allows you to lose weight without losing strength, without losing speed, without being fatigued, and the way we used to do it was not like this. We used to just try to focus on eating healthy and you work hard and try to sweat everything off. With Alex, so we don't even sweat as much. It just kind of goes down by the food. I don't wear a sauna suit, anymore. I used to throw it on almost every other day to sweat, to bring that weight down throughout the entire camp. Last time, we haven't even put a sauna suit. I would train in just a T-shirt and shorts. It just makes that big of a difference.
That's so good because, that is so, as you know, it's so unhealthy. I mean, I saw a 16-year-old girl training. She's a national champion, 16, at a gym wearing half of the sauna suit. And she said, I have 2 pounds to go. She had 2 weeks. And I'm like, girl, take that off. That is so unhealthy. Please tell everyone. Mm-hmm. Isn't that unhealthy, especially for a 16-year-old girl or boy?
It definitely is. We used to think that it was the only way to lose weight, and we would throw it on, like I said, every other day, 2 weeks before the fight. 3 weeks before the fight, we'd put it on, every other day to start sweating off the weight. And most people still do that. Most people probably think that that's the only way, but it really isn't. Working with Alex has, really, in a way, opened our eyes that you don't need it. It's more important to eat right and have everything measured and proportioned to whatever your body really needs. And you don't need the sauna suit, We don't use it. I don't use it. We don't use Albaline or sauna suit. It just allows us to work better, more comfortable. Your speed is there, your power is there. You're not dehydrating yourself throughout the camp, And I mean, if you find a way, a good nutritionist or a good dietitian who can help you lose weight without using the saunas too, you know, that's a lot better for that, you know, young person to be competing and compete at the highest level possible.
Definitely. And, you know, so working with Alex, like, your body looks very cut and you look, you know, lean, you look strong. Do you attribute that to working with Alex, or do you just feel like it's your training, or is it a combination?
It's a combination of both, because we always train hard. Even though I wasn't working with him, we would always have really tough physical training. I used to work with Daryl Hudson, and we do a lot of work with him. I really like Daryl Hudson's workouts. I really enjoyed it. But working with Alex, because I allowed him to work on my diet also. With Daryl, he didn't work on my diet. We just thought we didn't need it. And I'm sure he knows, you know, how to help a fighter, you know, during weight loss as well. But I didn't hire him for that. We had just hired Daryl for physical training and speed, and we were doing a lot of that work with him. But with Alex, we've allowed him to work my diet, my weight loss, and because there's a lot of protein and everything, like I said, everything's measured. All the protein intake, all the calories that we take, you know, any sugars that we take, any carbs or whatever, everything's portioned for me. You know, he focuses on me, directly on me, measures everything, does the body fat testing, you know, weight, he measures everything. So it's a lot easier for him to work because he knows my body so well, and it allows me to train hard and allows my body to, you know, really, you know, put everything that the body can perform. You know, all the muscles are there. You know, they're not tired. Then you're not eating up muscle. You're not burning muscle. You're, you know, burning just the fat, and then the muscle just pops out. You know, all the muscles are being fed the right protein and the right vitamins, and you know, it's just done almost like a science. It is a science with him, really, and that's why it shows on my body.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much positive, and it's nice to hear you talk about Alex Ariza, because there's been so much negative lately where I would get to the point where I'd be like, isn't he a liability for you? I mean, with the stuff with Freddie Roach, with his history, with, you know, with now Rio's coming up and Maidana in the corner. Do you ever worry that, man, this is maybe a little bit of a liability having him work with me?
Not at all, because people that don't like him will find ways to discredit him or just talk bad about him or pick any little incident to really make it a bigger deal than it really is. But he allows me to perform to my best capabilities, and I'm going to keep using him. He allows me to train hard and perform the day of the fight, you know, very comfortable, very, very, you know, fast and strong, and I feel great having him, so why would I drop him, you know?
No, of course not. And you look great, and you seem great, and I feel like you have a constitution and morals that you wouldn't let anything like that happen. But, again, you see from the outside what things look like, and, I mean, do you question everything that you take? Like when someone works with you, like your brother, there's probably things you don't question with him. Let's say with Alex, and he wanted to give you a special vitamin drink. Do you question what you're drinking, what you're ingesting in your body?
I trust him, and I haven't questioned him a single time. You know, he gives me drinks, protein drinks or mixes or whatever, vitamins, you know, pills, whatever he gives me, I take. I have, you know, full trust in him. The thing with Brandon, I mean, why haven't we heard anything about it anymore? I mean, I really believe that it was just bullshit or, you know, bad result, you know, contaminated sample or something, because he passed every single test, every single test that VADA did, and the Chinese Commission, everything except for one little sample that they said was found with traces of this diuretic substance, not even large amounts, just traces. Well, that could have been contaminated, and the way they performed that last test that they're talking about, I was there. It was not performed in any professional manner. You know, it really wasn't. I was there. They didn't even have a cup. Brandon had to pee in a regular cup from the sink there that the hotel room had. They had to run up downstairs to bring one of the actual test cups after the fact that he had already peed on the cup from the room. was actually my nephew and another guy from the gym that went downstairs, picked up the cup from the VADA people to bring it up. Why didn't VADA come up, you know? And all this other stuff that happened. Then they just had to transfer the urine samples to the VADA testing cup and, you know, whatever. And then after that, we don't see what happens. We don't know who took the cup after that. So, I mean, the way it was taken, it could very easily be discredited. But why haven't we heard from VADA ever again? I mean, I really think it was just a bad sample, contaminated sample that something happened because, I mean, everything else was clean. And, I mean, if they really wanted to, push an issue there, they would have continued to pressure Brandon and the whole entire team. But they didn't. They're not doing it. They're not even suspending Brandon from any other, place or anything like that. So, I mean, that's why I really think it was just, a mistake that they made. But whatever, it's there. People will think that it's, testing for testosterone hormones or whatever, steroids or whatever, because that they just hear positive test. He's using drugs, he's using something, he's using this, he's using that. And it's not true. They don't even look at the real facts. They don't even really research it and find out the truth. And the case with Maidana in the corner, what can you really see? You can't see shit. And you can't even say that it was anything because all it was is cotton swabs that he thought it might have been a cut, so he's ready with the cotton swabs. There's no cut, so he puts them on the napkin and starts wiping his face off. That's all that happened. But people are, like I said, they find any little thing to pick and point fingers and make it a bigger deal than it really is. I mean, he did his job. As a cornerman, he was the guy there. He worried about a cut. Of course, he's going to be prepared with cotton swabs and be ready for a cut. There's no cut. Okay, he puts them away and just starts wiping off the sweat and whatever, Vaseline or whatever. No big deal. But people will try to discredit his work and try to, point fingers right away and then say that he's a bad guy. But honestly, I think he's a really good addition to the team.
Well, it's good to hear you explaining all this because, I mean, there's been lots of experiences with USADA and VADA, and I know we have on here Coach Mike Cassell who's going to ask you a question, and he has his own terrible experiences with his fighter with a similar situation. And that sounds very, very sketchy because, when you win a nationals or go on an international trip, you go right in that room. They watch you every second of the way. They have their own cups. Everything's sterile. Mm-hmm. So that sounds very, very sketchy. I'm glad you explained that for everybody who's listening. So enough of that said. I'm glad he's working with you, and I'm glad that it's a positive experience, and that's what counts. Now, what about you? Are you going to go, Mikey? You're going to leave 130? Are you going to go up towards light welter? Is that aspirations that you have?
There are plans for me to move up in weight, but we got to go fight by fight. I would like to stay at 130, after this fight, maybe try to unify titles. If that is not available, if the title unification match is not possible, and there's a good possibility for me to fight 135, I will move up to 135 when my body feels ready for that. If I feel that I can perform well at 130, but there isn't any fight that can really interest me to stay at 130, but there's a couple of good fights at 135, then I can also, move up to 135. Junior welterweight might take a little longer. Body growth. I really don't go up in weight unless my body is growing and I'm able to compete, at that weight class comfortably. I don't want to just move up in weight just because there's a good fight, and even though I'm just overweight, to make the 140. No way, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna make sure that when I move up in weight is because it's time to move up, and I can still fight, to the best of my capabilities at that higher weight class.
Okay, because I keep hearing rumors, Pacquiao and Garcia. I mean, is that just rumors, or is that something that you?
After the Rios fight, they asked me, if I would like to fight Pacquiao. I said, of course, why wouldn't I? I mean, I'm not going to say no. Of course I would like to fight him. And then I guess they asked a couple of people in Top Rank, and they said, well, that's a possibility, maybe in the future. And people go off from there saying that there's already plans for me to fight him. Of course there's no plans for me to fight him. I mean, would I like to fight him? Of course, yes. But is it going to happen, or is it already in the works? No, it's not. it could happen if I move up to 140, and then later he's already at 147. So I mean, that's just too high. I mean, we would have to wait, all this year, see where I'm at the end of this year. If I'm 135, I would still have to move up to 140. And either he comes down a couple pounds, or we meet him in the middle, or something. But it's still, I mean, it's too far off to even consider that a true option for me right now.
Yeah, how rumors get started. It's quite interesting that everything. I know anything can go off, but I had on Facebook. I had a guy named Gregory. I thought he was going to call in. He wanted to ask you about a fighter that's fighting, Argenis Mendez, who you know, is defending his IBF super featherweight title tomorrow night on ESPN, Friday Night Fights. And he says against Francis Bartholomew. And okay, I'm reading what he has to say because I'm not going to remember verbatim. So he says, and also has been quoted saying he will also move up in weight class unless Mikey Garcia is willing to match him for a WBO IBF unification. Bring this into the conversation, please. We all would like to know how Garcia feels about this possible match pending Argenis Mendez wins tomorrow. What do you think?
He's definitely a good fighter. He's a world champion for a reason. We know Argenis Mendez very well. He was actually here at the training camp with us a couple years back. We actually sparred maybe one or twice back in the day. So I know him well. He knows me. And if he's question or asking for a fight with me or trying to get a fight with me, I mean, if he wins and I win my next fight, then that's a good possibility that we could maybe unify the titles. Maybe March, April, May, sometime. But it has to be done with the promoters. I mean, he could ask for the fight. I could ask for the fight. If the promoters aren't going to work together, it's not going to happen. He belongs to his promoter. I belong to Bob Arum, who's my promoter. They need to work. He may say, if I'm willing to fight. It's not if I'm willing. It's if the promoters are willing to put the fighters together. I'm willing to fight anybody. He's willing to fight anybody. I don't think a fighter is afraid to fight anybody. It's just a matter of business, and the promoters are first they think business before anything else. If it makes money for the promoters, if it makes sense for them, then they'll put the show together. If it doesn't, then they're not going to. I think that is a good fight, and it could be a good fight that could happen. It's a very possible fight that could possibly be done, like I said, March, April, May, sometime, and that would be an interesting fight. I really would like to unify titles, and I think we could put on a very good fight with Mendez and myself.
I agree. Yep, you bring up the whole promotions again. The Cold War, they're calling it. It's pretty bizarre. Pretty bizarre. Well, we have the boxing prophet, and I'm sure he's been waiting. Prophet, here you are with Mikey Garcia.
Thanks for coming on the show, Mike, and it really has been a breakout year for you in every sense of the word.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome.
In all your fights, I noticed you punch from great angles. I'm not a professional trainer, but I noticed that you punch from great angles. Your footwork has improved dramatically, precision punching, and your really uncanny sense of timing. I mean, if you're your own worst critic, how the heck does Mikey Garcia improve? I mean, you really destroyed everyone you were in the ring with, Salido, Juan Manuel Lopez, and Roland Rocky Martinez. There's no way to go but up, no way to go. Sky's the limit. What would you say are your deficiencies? Like, well, what are you working on in the gym to make yourself an even better fighter?
Oh, well, thank you. But there's always, room for improvement. Along with experience, the fighter will also feel more confident, more comfortable engaging in a fight, and then I'm learning more as I go. I mean, I have good school, good technique, good trainers, but I'm only as good as I can believe in myself. And then as these fights have happened, I've started to gain more confidence in myself, and I'm able to work a lot better. And even though I've already learned things, I haven't put them out in the ring yet. I haven't shown them yet. And with experience and more confidence, I'm able to do that. And I think people will think that I'm learning new things, but it's just I'm trying them out now, and I'm actually putting them out and displaying them in the fight. We work on the basics all the time. It's nothing too new. It's just a matter of how you put it together, and maybe a little bit of new things that we try, and if it works, we'll keep it. If it doesn't work, we'll toss it, and I could probably work a lot more on my inside game. People won't keep asking, how's my inside fight game and whatever. I mean, I think I'm pretty good at it, but I just don't need to do it every single time. And if I don't need to use it, I'm not going to. I mean, if it brings any risk or gives my opponent any chance of beating me, then why would I try to fight on the inside? If my best option, my best game plan is to stay on the outside, then that's what I'm going to do. But if I have to put pressure on somebody and stay on the inside and really, exchange punches and do that, then that's what I would do. And, people just haven't seen it, but I do know how to fight.
You certainly do. And in 2013, January 2013, at the Garden, you destroyed Orlando Salido, and on the undercard was your future opponent, Juan Carlos Burgos, who I thought dominated Roman Rocky Martinez, and it ended in a very controversial draw. What is it about Burgos' style that makes you think it could be a competitive fight?
Well, for one, he's a very tough guy. He's very tough, very resilient. He's experienced. I think what makes him most dangerous is that this is going to be his third shot at a title. He lost his first shot in Tokyo, I think it was against Hasagwa, a couple years ago. He tied against Martinez last year. So he's getting a third shot. For him, this may be the last opportunity. He may feel that this could be the last opportunity to fight at a title. If he loses this, it may take him, 2 years or 3 years or whatever to get back, in line to fight for another world title. So I can really think that and feel that he's going to come strong. He's going to come with everything he has. He's going to put everything on the line. I think he's going to try harder than before because of this. And because he knows he's facing me, he's probably going to be in the best shape possible and come out, like never before. And that's what makes him a tough and dangerous opponent for me. He knows, how to fight. He has experience. He knows what it is to come up short. He knows what it is to lose that title shot. So giving him another opportunity can only motivate him more to really put everything out there. If he takes me out, he takes my spot. He knows, that the sky's the limit for him for an opportunity to unify or move up in weight class or whatever, because then he's the guy at the top. And, I mean, I can only imagine that he's, going to be probably my toughest opponent to this date.
And my final question is to you. Hardcore boxing fans like myself realize that you had a breakout year, and you should be on any knowledgeable boxing fan's top 10 pound-for-pound list. But there are some naysayers there. Christy mentioned the Cold War and promoters fighting back and forth. You never stepped into the ring for one reason or another with Nonito Donaire, Abner Morris, or Rigondeaux. So there's always going to be, critics out there. Do you think that, and Christy mentioned it earlier in the interview, do you think that because of all the politics that you might have to make a bold move to 140, maybe even high as 147, and to maybe challenge, Bradley Pacquiao and/or Mayweather and finally get the respect that you think you deserve?
No, I'm not worried about that. I think there's options available still within, my promotional company that can make me, the fights and make me the fighter that there's always going to be critics no matter what you do in boxing. Look at Pacquiao, look at Mayweather, and people still criticize them, so that really doesn't bother me. They mentioned Donaire. Well, we're never going to fight. They mentioned Rigondeaux. He's at 122. I'm at 130 now. That's not going to happen. They mentioned Morris. Morris is a golden boy. That ain't never going to happen. I mean, I don't really care what people have to say. If they think negative or say negative comments, it really doesn't bother me. I'm just doing my job. I have my promoter. He takes care of my career. Whatever my promoter, has in store and plan for me, if we agree to it, we'll go forward with that. And whether it is move up in weight class or whatever it is, that's what we talk about and we decide together.
Prophet, did you fall asleep? What happened?
No, that was it. That was my final question.
Oh, okay. Oh, my gosh. Yeah. All right, Mikey. Sorry about that. I'm going to hand it over for a couple minutes for Mike Casella. He's our panel host today, and he's also a coach in Pennsylvania. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, Mikey, I did pick you as Fighter of the Year, and the reason why I did was because I knew how good you really are. I'm a trainer, and I met you in January 2013 when my fighter was fighting on the undercard of the Salida fight. And I came up to you and your brother, and I don't know if you remember me, but I look like Steve from Jerry Springer. And I said to you, I said, Mikey, you're one of the best fighters in the world. And you really humbly smiled, and you said, no, not me. And I said to myself, I really like that kid. I'm really glad I met him. And your brother is just, a fantastic guy. I got to talk to him for a little bit about boxing and about training and just a great trainer. But, Mike, the one thing that really stands out to me about you is the incredible amount of patience and discipline in the ring. Very pinpoint punches, very smart. Your timing is exquisite when you're jab, catching people coming in. I think that, you are the guy, and, I know this is going to make Christy cringe a little bit, but I think you are the guy that can beat Rigondeaux. The style that you have is tremendous because, you're not really one-dimensional. You're a multi-dimensional fighter. My question to you is this, and I really want to kind of get on the inside of who you are in training. How much is your father involved in your training? And if he is, what exactly does he do for you in training?
First, just thanks for the nice compliments. I appreciate that. In regards to, my dad and training and who I am or whatever, we have a team, my brother and my dad, they're my trainers. My dad, he basically guides whatever my brother is going to work with. For example, if we're working the mitts, if my dad already has a game plan in store and how I'm supposed to be fighting the night of the fight, he tells my brother what punches to look for, what combinations to ask, how to defend, what punches my opponent's going to be attacking with, and what kind of movement my opponent does or whatever, so that my brother can do that in the ring while working the mitts, while doing the training. My dad do as much physical work as he used to. Now he feels tired. He's getting older, and he just kind of oversees the work and corrects any mistakes and any other things that need to be, tightened up a little bit. My brother does the physical work. He does the training. He's the guy doing the mitts and does all that. My dad kind of just oversees and, like I said, does a little bit of corrections here and there.
So your father is kind of the tactical master, and your brother physically carries out the plan.
Yes. Well, my brother also has, a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience. So he himself also tells me what we need to work on and what to do. If my dad sees something that he doesn't like, or if he sees something that we should work on, he'll let my brother know and myself, and that's how we work. And I really, like both, guys there. My dad and my brother. I mean, they have the most experience than anybody else, and they're the best trainers in the world.
Mike, I look at you as kind of the accidental fighter or the accidental champion, because you really weren't a little kid who said, I want to be a world champion when you were young. You were kind of a guy that came along, realized you could fight, and you had this great boxing college surrounding you and your father and your brother. Tell me at what point in your career, I mean, whether it was in a sparring match, whether it was in the amateurs, I don't care. When did you say to yourself, man, I can really do this at a high level? When did you know?
You got it right. I was never that kid, dreaming of becoming a world champion, being a fighter or anything like that. I never, that never crossed my mind when I was a kid. I would see my brother and Vargas training, but I never wished, I was them or doing what they were doing. When it started, we went to an exhibition match with my nephew, Javier, call him Pelos, Javier Garcia. He was doing some exhibition matches, and we went to go see him and just, show support and whatever. My brother was there, my other nephews, nieces, cousins were all there. And one of the kids that was part of my nephew's gym or something didn't have an opponent. And without even saying anything, my brother just signed me up and said, "You're fighting." So we borrowed some shorts, some shoes, mouthpiece, head. We borrowed everything. And we got in the ring. And it was a 3-round exhibition match. And, I didn't train. I wasn't trained. I was always on a little bit, about boxing. We've always been around the gym and whatever, so we knew a little bit. But I was not training. I had never even, decided to train or whatever. So we just jumped in the ring, and I did it. And, I kind of liked it. It was something that, I could do. I noticed, I could try something like this. So after that, then I started to train. I started to go to the gym and trying to learn. And my dad told me, if you just want to come here to work out, that's fine. But if you really want to compete, then you really need to train and focus and take it seriously. And I did, and I started my amateur career, and I had about 10 fights when I entered my first tournament. I entered the Junior Olympics, and I advanced all the way to the final round of the National Junior Olympic Tournament. It was held in Louisiana in 2003, and I lost the very final match, and I brought back the silver medals. But I figured, if I could do this, with very little experience, I think I added up to 15 fights or 16 fights in total, up until that fight. So, I had not lost a single fight until I lost the final of the National Junior Olympics. So I figured, I can probably do this a little bit more. And I started to pay more attention into it and take it a little more seriously. And, years later, I'm here. I'm doing it at the highest level possible, and I enjoy it. I really like what I do. It's fun for me. The competition is fun, and it's easy to just get in the ring and just fight. It comes naturally. I'm not having a hard time with my opponents. It seems like I'm just very calm, very patient. I know what to do, and it's just like a job for me. It's comfortable.
On January of 2013, when you fought Salida, most people that I knew were picking Salida to win. I said, "You're crazy. Mikey Garcia is going to win this fight." And I said, "This is the fight for me that will really define Mikey Garcia, because Salida is a stalking brawler who's relentless, who's going to come forward, and you're going to see a very different kind of Mikey Garcia in this fight, where he is going to drop this guy a couple times." And people were saying, one of my fighters was saying to me, Octavio, I'm going to mention his name, he's embarrassed right now, but he said to me, "No way, Coach, this is not going to happen." I said, "Watch what happens in this fight." And I was ringside, and I was watching the fight, and was that like really the wall for you to really kind of say, this is who I am? Was that the statement fight for you against Salida? Because he was determined to win that fight, and he was coming forward like gangbusters. Even to the point of him breaking your nose. So, tell me what that fight, when you were in that fight, what was going through your head? Were you sticking to your plan? Did you step outside your plan? What happened?
When we first took the fight, when we first agreed to the fight, I was really excited to really show everybody, what fighter I am and who I am as a fighter and what I can do. We knew that to, make a big statement, we needed to take out the best in the division, who at the time was Orlando Salido. And, we came up with a great game plan to just outbox him and just, dance circles around him and whatever. So we knew what we needed to do. We knew he was going to be tough and kept coming. We knew he was going to, be resilient, but we knew that if we stuck to the game plan, I would beat him. I would drop him, beat him, beat him up, and maybe in the end, maybe even stop him. So, I was surprised that he went down so easily, but I wasn't surprised that he was getting up and came back, every single time, because we expected him to keep coming. But, we just stuck to the game plan. I kept outboxing him, just beat him with speed and intelligence and frustrating him. he started charging in the 7th round pretty strong, and later in that 8th, he came in and then, hit me with that headbutt. But, that 8th round, I was back in control of the fight. The 7th round is the only one that I could say, he really gave everything he had, and even that 7th round was the only round that he might have won, but the 8th round I took control again, and I felt like I was, a round or two away from stopping him. I just felt his body. I was reading his body language. I could feel his breathing and just his expression. I knew it was about, a round or two away, and, he came with the headbutt, and that was it. So, that's the way it went and ended.
Well, Mikey, I just want to tell you, I hope I get to see you again on an undercard. We don't mind playing second fiddle to a world champion like you. And, it was just honestly, even my fighter was patting me on the back after he destroyed Salita, because I was actually more excited for that fight than our knockout, because I was really, my fighter turned to me, Tony, and he said, Coach, he goes, you're more excited for Mikey than you are for me. I said, no, I've been waiting for this fight, and I've been waiting for really Mikey to show everybody what he's made of, and I knew that he was this good. And, Mike, I just wish you a lot of success in the future. I want you to keep listening to your brother, keep listening to your father, keep doing what you're doing. All the controversy around Alex Ariza, whatever it is, whatever you're doing right now, is right. And I just want you to keep moving in that direction, man. And you know what? I'm really happy for you, and I just, I wish you great success in the future.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it very much. We hope, to keep bringing the sun to the fans and just, performing and give good fights. So that's all I hope for.
All right, God bless,
I have
Mikey.
to tell you something. Hold on a second, Mike, since you got me in a little weird position here, because, okay, Mikey, I have known him for so many years, and I'm a big supporter of Mikey Garcia. Now, let me tell you something. Regan Dow is one of my favorite other fighters besides Mikey. Okay, let me tell you something. He is way too light for Mikey Garcia. We don't want him going down and getting sick again, so we're not asking you to fight Regan Dow. But I have no question that it would be a great fight if you guys could match in weight. But I like you just as much as him, okay? I just want you to send
Christy, can I tell you? Christy, I love you, and I got to tell you straight up. If Rigondeaux comes up in weight, he's going to get knocked out by Mikey Garcia. I'm just telling you right now. It's just...
I understand that. Okay, wait a second. I understand that. I don't think Rigondeaux should go up in weight, and I don't think Mikey should go back down. There's plenty of...
No.
Okay? Look, I'm going to put you on mute in just a second. You be quiet. Okay, be quiet now. So, Mikey... Okay, so Mikey Garcia, you're still here? You haven't left us, right? You must be starving. I'll let you go in a second. Mikey, I want to tell you, though, on Facebook, again, I have Hector from Boxeo Mas, and he wants to thank you so much for all your fights, and he wants to ask you if you're going to fight in San Antonio anytime soon.
I won't know if I'm going to be fighting in San Antonio, but, Texas has been really good for boxing recently, and, they've shown a lot of support, throughout the state of Texas. So if Bob Arum decides to do a show in Texas, we'll make sure, they come out, and hopefully we can do it in San Antonio.
All right, because you have a lot of fans over there as well, obviously, because here we go. People are writing to me. Well, Mikey, thank you so much. It was a real pleasure. Happy New Year to you and your family. And, thank you for taking the time.
Oh, thank you, Christy. It's a pleasure anytime. We're here. Thanks for having me on the show. And, everybody enjoy, Happy New Year, and hope everybody has a prosperous 2014.
Thank you, and we'll be watching you on January 25th, Madison Square Gardens, against your opponent, who I totally forgot because here we are, Juan Carlos Burgos. Thank you. All I was doing was thinking about Mikey. All right, Mikey, have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. Take care of yourself.
Thank you, Christy. All right, have a good one.
Right,
bye-bye.
You too. Bye. We'll be back. We're going to a commercial. Be back in a minute and 32 seconds.
This is Real Combat Media Radio. Check us out at realcombatmedia.com. While you're there, check out the Feed the Poor link on the bottom of every article, and you can send a donation if you're interested. That is, once again, on the bottom of every article as well as on the top of the website. If you are an MMA, boxing, or fitness business and interested in sponsoring our website or radio podcast, send us an email. advertising at realcombatmedia.com. Once again, that is advertising at realcombatmedia.com. Make sure to check out the Real Combat Media MMA and boxing store at the top of the menu at realcombatmedia.com. We carry a collection of products. We have the Cardio Mask, which is excellent for all fighters, endurance athletes, and serious fitness enthusiasts. Once you are in the Real Combat Media store, click on the banner on that page. We also carry Alpha Brain. Alpha Brain is a great and natural product which activates your brain's neurotransmitters and helps you think more clearly, which improves brain function. You can also purchase the world's healthiest plant protein, which comes from hemp. There are many other products online on the online store, and click on the On It banner at the Real Combat Media store, and you can purchase Alpha Brain and other health products. Use the discount code Real Combat Media, and you will receive 10% off at the checkout store on the On It. That is ONNIT on the banner at Real Combat Media store. Buckle up. Here we go. Let's get this show started.
Welcome back to Real Combat Media Boxing Radio, episode 40. I'm your host, Christy Rosario, here in Los Angeles, with my co-host, Richard Solomon, the boxing prophet in New York City, and boxing writer and professional boxing trainer Mike Cassell is our panel host. Live callers 347-324-5998. Find us at Real Combat on Twitter or at Boxing Girl, BXINGRL is mine. At Boxing Prophet 68 for the Boxing Prophet, and at Fight City 1 for Mike Cassell. I guess I stuttered a little bit on that one. On Facebook.
Sorry.
I don't know why I do, but I keep going, what is this? Fight City 1. Okay. But you can find us on Facebook, too, at Real Combat Media, which has been really cool. Facebook has been great because people will say questions that they want to talk to Mikey. I guess they don't want to call, and we can just kind of relay the questions, and I like that as well. And he's just always such a great guy, Mikey. And, he tells you like it is. He explains things, and not everything is what you see. So, it's nice to hear it from him. I enjoyed that. We are going to continue because we don't have a lot of time left, and we want to go for Fight of the Year. Prophet, why don't you step in there first? What was your Fight of the Year for 2013?
Yeah, a couple honorable mentions. Marcos Madonna's knockout over Josecito Lopez. I love the Giovanni Segura knockout over Hernan Marquez, the two best flyweights going to war in Mexico was a great fight. And Arislande Lara getting off the deck after two knockdowns to stop Alfredo Angulo in the 10th round was also a great fight. A lot of people are picking Brock Kessler 2 or Rios Alvarado 2. I thought both of those fights were great, but somewhat overrated. To me, my fight of the year was unequivocally Timothy Bradley against Ruslan Provodnikov. Basically, as I mentioned earlier, after the Pacquiao debacle, Bradley had something to prove, and he went to war with Provodnikov. He was out on his feet in the early rounds, was knocked down in the last round, but fought like the warrior that he is in the middle rounds. It had tremendous ebb and flow, knockdowns. It had everything you want in a prize fight. The fans were giving him a standing ovation pretty much during every round. And it basically, the reason why it's my fight of the year is because both of their stocks rose after this fight. You saw what Provodnikov did after losing to Bradley. He went on to stop Alvarado in another war to prove that he's for real. Bradley went on and beat Marquez. So they both proved what great fighters they were. And it was just basically 12 electrifying rounds from beginning to end. And I'm a sucker for, like I said, I'm a sucker for a redemption story. And Timothy Bradley, for this particular night at least, proved his critics wrong. Like Mike said, early in his career, he dominated Lamont Peterson, and still people didn't give him the credit he deserved. This finally made people stand up and take notice of Timothy Bradley, and for the most part, at least on my list, he's in my top 5. On my top 5 pound for pound list. But the fight itself was a war. It was great. I watched it when, over the Christmas break when HBO was replaying all of their great fights. And it was just a war from start to finish. And it's definitely my fight of the year for 2013.
Oh, okay. So that's your fight for 2013. What about yours, Mike?
I couldn't really disagree with anything Prophet said. I mean, I really, really loved Maidana and Josecito Lopez. What a great fight that was. No disappointment. Solid line action from Jump Street. But I have to totally agree with the Prophet when he talks about Provodnikov and Bradley. And I think Bradley's one of those guys, again, who doesn't get the credit that he deserves. And Provodnikov, I think, is a fighter that we haven't really seen his best yet. I really do think that he is a much better fighter, a much better boxer than people give him credit for, especially now that he's with Freddie Roach. Freddie will get the best out of him, and he will move him in the right direction. But in my opinion, Timothy Bradley and Provodnikov was a fight that really, to me, is the cardinal pillars of boxing. It's what makes us love boxing. You know, Bradley was hurt in that fight. I mean, he was hurt. He was done. He was concussed. He had a broken jaw. He was finished. And he just really showed us what he was made of. I love Timothy Bradley. I can't say enough about Ruslan Provodnikov. Provodnikov is the kind of fighter to me that, you know, he's like that guy that, you know, he's good. Everybody knows he's tough. Everybody knows he's strong. You know, everybody knows that he can punch. But the one thing that he has that I think that a lot of the great fighters have is heart and determination. Remember, you know, 131 fights for Sugar Ray Robinson, and he met a guy named Jake LaMotta who finally beat him. It was his only defeat in 131 fights. And again, Provodnikov is that kind of guy. He's that guy who will show up against Timothy Bradley, who was undefeated. You know, say what you want against Manny Pacquiao. You know, he won the fight. Judges saw it that way. So he was an undefeated fighter, tremendous fighter. Timothy Bradley had a lot to prove in that fight, and Provodnikov was coming up from the bottom, the hind legs of boxing, and had a lot to prove. I couldn't agree more with the Prophet. I'm picking that fight as my fight of the year. I thought it was tremendous. I thought it was exciting. I thought it showed everything in boxing that we want to see as fans. You know, from a trainer's perspective, I was totally fascinated with the instruction from each corner. I mean, I was listening intently. You know, whenever the corners would come on, I would turn the volume up because I wanted to hear what the trainers were saying in this fight that was just a war of will. You know, it was really a war of will. So I 100% agree with the Prophet, and I'm picking, you know, Provodnikov Bradley, and I think it was a tremendous fight. And I think it's a fight that if you're anybody out there who loves boxing and you are a trainer, you should show it to fighters because it really shows you the tremendous intestinal fortitude of a fighter. You know, I mean, both of those fighters, just tremendous.
All right. Well, I have to tell you, Michelle Chong, who writes for Boxing in Las Vegas, also picked Timothy Bradley versus Ruslan Provodnikov. And, you know, I agree. It was a great fight, a great fight. But I also have to say, and, you know, you might not agree because it's more like an upset, but Maidana versus Broner, I was so happy with that fight. You know, I have to give honorable mention again to them. And there were so many fights for 2013, so many fantastic fights. But Real Combat Media Boxing Awards 2013, Fight of the Year goes to Timothy Bradley versus Ruslan Provodnikov. So there's one that we all seem to agree on.
Nice.
We all seem to agree on that one. But, I mean, I think it's, you know, it's interesting. It's interesting what everyone has to say. And Michelle Chong went for, she writes for Boxing in Las Vegas, and she went for Adonis Stevenson as her KO. That's who she felt the KO went to. Trainer, she couldn't decide between Freddie Roach, Robert Garcia, Joel Diaz. Let me see. Upset fight was Maidana Broner for her. And then, as we said, Bradley versus Provodnikov was her pick for Fight of the Year. So, you know, here we are having a great 2013, and then hopefully 2014 will be even better. And coming up, let's see, this weekend. Oh, yeah, not this weekend. Tomorrow on ESPN Fights, Friday Night Fights, we have, like we were just talking about, Argenis Mendez versus Rances Bartholomew. I hope I say his name right. Caleb Chuo versus Ossie Duran. We have, who else? We have Arash Usmani versus Juan Antonio Rodriguez. Zahir Rahim versus Latif Coyote. Did I pronounce his last name right, guys? I think it's pronounced different.
You got it right.
What?
Coyote's right.
Coyote?
You pronounced it.
Yeah, I've never seen Coyote quite spelled like that, but I know I've heard it before and I've seen him before. So, Prophet, what do you think of that fight card for ESPN tomorrow night?
Start to the year. I just hope I get reception. They blizzard. They were expecting 10 to 12 inches. I hope I have reception on my television set because I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. But I like the fact that it's a title fight. Zahir Rahim, the former Olympian, will also be in action, and I think it'll be a solid show. You know, like I said, hopefully my only goal is to, get out of this blizzard and make sure I get reception.
Right. Well, what's interesting is it's an Iron Mike production, Seconds Out Promotions, and Warriors Boxing present. I have a feeling Mike Tyson's kind of going to get up there and be one of the big promoters in not too long. He, with his connections, he's got a chance of really doing well. And then what are we going to do? We're going to get ESPN will be the next fighting network. You never know. What do you think, Mike? What do you think of the card?
Well, first of all, I just want to tell you about Iron Mike Tyson. I mean, no disrespect to Mike. Mike has nothing to do with this promotional company. There's a lot of money men behind him that are promoting this company, and they're using Mike's name. However, the one thing I will say about Mike is that he's been out there endorsing and being the ambassador of the company, and I give him a lot of respect for doing that because there's been a lot of former fighters, Tim Witherspoon here in Philly, and just a lot of fighters all over the country who they kind of use their name, and they're using Iron Mike Productions, and the fact of the matter is that there's a couple of guys behind this whole thing. But I will say this about Mike Tyson. He does know boxing, and he does know what people like. I mean, he has an idea of what the fans like, and he says the right things at the press conferences. There's no doubt in my mind he gets people excited for fights. So, I mean, they might have picked the right guy to be the guy in front, but, it is what it is. These are great fights. I mean, Mendez, Bartholomew, Duran, and Tro. These are really good fights for Friday night fights. The one thing about ESPN that has bothered me for the last couple of years, and, the problem is, and I know because I've been involved in promotion, especially here in Philly, is that they don't pay a lot of money for these fights. And what you really need is good local promoters. You need good local promoters who are going to put on good shows and who are going to get good fighters. So, for ESPN fights, when you see good fights on television, keep in mind it has nothing to do with ESPN. It has everything to do with these promoters, these small promoters who are really putting it out there and going out and making good cards. This is going to be a good card. It's going to be an exciting fight. I'm looking forward to the main event. It is for the Super Featherweight Championship. It's going to be exciting. I personally like Mendez in this fight. I don't know how the Prophet feels. I don't know how you feel, Christy. I like Mendez in this fight. I think it's going to be an interesting fight. I think it's going to be a hard-fought battle, actually, between these two. I don't think it's going to be as close as people think, or as far away as people think, I should say.
Well, I want to thank DMBoxing.com because that's David Martinez over there. That's where I got this whole list of who's fighting because, I go to different websites, and he was nice enough to email me, and then I just went on his website and just want to thank him for that. What do you think, Prophet? You think it's going to be a good matchup? Do you think it's going to be close, or you think Mendez is going to just take it away?
I like Mendez by a 10th round knockout. I kind of had a slump towards the end of 2013, with my pick with Broner beating Madonna, and also with the Johnny Gonzalez against Abner Morris pick. But then again, that was a real upset. So I like Mendez in 10, but like you said earlier in the program, styles make fights. So that's why I think this fight should be a rough and tough battle, and it'll be more of a war than a boxing match. I think it's a very aesthetically crowd-pleasing fight, and it's a great way to kick off the new year. And I agree with Mike. Iron Mike Tyson, with all of his, the bad stuff he's done out of the ring, has really, redeemed himself, not only as a fighter, but as a human being. He's done a lot of good things outside of the ring now, and just lending his name to the promotion can only help. You know, people can identify with the name Mike Tyson. Even if you're not a hardcore boxing fan, you know who Mike Tyson is. So this can only help, the fact that Mike Tyson is, you know, lending his name to the promotion. And I ran out, I got to be honest with you, as soon as his book went on sale, even though I saw the Broadway show in person in New York City, I ran to my local Barnes & Noble's bookstore and bought his book right away when it came out. He's a very fascinating figure, whether you love him or hate him. Mike Tyson is, you know, synonymous with the sport, you know, boxing. He was huge back in the day. So,
Profit.
Yes.
So you saw it's called Undisputed, right? Mike Tyson. You saw that on Broadway?
Undisputed Truth.
I saw.
How was it?
Undisputed. Great. They had a DJ there before the show started to like get things going, and he was very honest. And you know, they showed the show on HBO, and it was pretty much the same show I saw on Broadway. And he spoke about his social life. You know, he spoke about Robin Givens and, you know, the fact that he was addicted to, you know, cocaine and alcohol and, you know, just basically what you wanted to hear and what you expected. His brawl with Mitch Green was priceless. It stole the show. His brawl in the middle of Harlem with Mitch Blood Green was definitely the show stopper of the night. It had everyone laughing. The fact that he actually saw his ex-wife, Robin Givens, fooling around with Brad Pitt in the car and wanted to knock out Brad Pitt but had to physically restrain himself was also hysterical. And he's just a guy you'd want to, like, have a beer with or just invite all. He has so many stories he could tell you. I'm sure Mike knows that'll have you cracking up. And he's a wonderful performer. You know, he acted on stage, and he really showed another facet to his life that I didn't even know, you know, existed. He makes cameo appearances in movies, and you think, this, you know, isn't really Mike Tyson. But he's a very, very, forget about the fact that he's a great fighter. He's a very, very funny guy. He really knows how to tell a joke. His delivery was great. It was right on point. And, you know, he has a business for himself, you know, outside of the ring. He's knowledgeable. He's funny. And he's really, you know, you talk about guys who reinvent themselves after they leave the sport of boxing. Mike Tyson, for all intent and purposes, has reinvented himself.
He has. You know, what I can't believe is that any man would want to fool around with Mike Tyson's wife. I mean, how stupid. It's amazing. I can't believe that. But, you know, what I like about Mike Tyson, whether it's him or not doing the promotional, you know, work, which obviously probably isn't, but it's his name, is maybe if we get him big enough and there is a lot of competition, maybe people like Bob Arum, Oscar De La Hoya won't be able to be as greedy as far as keeping their fighters to themselves. Maybe they'll have to have the competition, and maybe the Cold War will be able to knock down that wall and come together so we can have all these cool fights that we want to see. I don't know. What do you think, Mike?
I couldn't agree more with you. And I think the fact of the matter is like, if you look at the NFL, you know, you look at the great teams in the AFC, like you wouldn't say Kansas City's not going to play the Patriots because they don't like each other. The owners don't like each other. The problem is that we need a national commissioner. And the problem with boxing is that, you know, the bottom line, and I don't want to go on a rant here because I'm in the process of writing a book right now about boxing, the sweet science, tweaking the sweet science, it's called. And basically, we need a national commissioner. We need somebody who will step in and say, no, you can't do that. You're not allowed to do that. You have to fight this guy. And until we get a national commissioner, boxing will always be the most disorganized, organized sport in the world. And we need that. You know, Pete Rozelle was a genius in the NFL. The reason what made him a genius was bringing the AFC and the AFL and the NFL together. And that's what we need in boxing. We need somebody who will sit down and say, no matter how much money you have to fight these guys. The bottom line, end of story. And until we do that in boxing, we're going to have this Cold War that's going on right now. And you know what? In 2013, the real big story is the Cold War. That is the big story because we don't have the best fighters fighting each other. And we need to stand up and make a stand and say, listen, man, that's it. Just because you have a lot of money doesn't mean you can control boxing. We need to have a national commission. We need to have somebody with the integrity of Rozelle that will basically turn around and say, no, absolutely not. This is the stance we're going to take. So really, for me, I'm hoping in 2014 there is a change in boxing. I don't think it's going to happen, but I really wish it will. And when my book comes out,
I hope so too. But we have 45 seconds. 45 seconds, you guys. It was awesome. Happy New Year to both of you. See you later, guys. I'll talk to you next week. This has been another great show. We really enjoyed speaking to Mikey Garcia. We'll be back next week on Wednesday, January 8th, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern with episode 41 with multi-divisional former world champion Roy Jones Jr. Special thanks to Sue Fox, WBAN.org, and Mike Cassell for being our co-host today. Wishing you all a very healthy, happy new year from Real Combat Media Boxing Radio family to yours. Mi familia. I can't even talk anymore. Mi familia to your familia. See you later. Have a wonderful day.